much for coming.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about the Tabularium archive today and some of the publications in there. And it's going to be recorded and posted on the SLEP's website afterwards. So please share it with whoever's not here. So, just so you know, I want to keep this really formal. I want to contribute.
The voice is going in and out.
It's going in and out?
Yeah.
It might come a bit closer, just so you can see. But just let me know if you can't hear anything that I say. Yeah?
That's better.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay, joining us today in Melbourne, we've got Sarah and Michelle and Ross as well, no? Ross isn't here, but Sarah and Michelle from Polar Space. We've also got Holly Charles as well. And joining us on Google Hangout, we have Amy from London.
Hello.
Ben, who's also from London. We've got Zara Blomfield from Berlin. And we've got Karen Ann Donaki from Perth and Marion Tubbs from Sydney. But before I thought I'd kind of talk through all your bios and stuff, I just wanted to share with you a bit about a few sentences from the exhibition essay I've been writing on the exhibition about the archive, and hopefully it'll give you a bit more context for why I'm working on this project. So in this essay, which is called Returning to the Tabularium, an exhibition and archive in pursuit of chronological time, I discussed John Rathman's work, which is called Annals of Time Lost, and it's actually usually shown on this screen. And basically what I say is, what I think is pertinent in the context of this essay is the reference in my work's title to time that is lost. When one surfs the internet, the available content is experienced by the user in the present. Unless one specifically uses the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine or a similar digital archive to access content, the lack of ability to get an accurate snapshot of chronological time on the Internet is problematic. This is also an issue that's made apparent by Ry Vega Bradley's experiment, which you can see behind you. It's called Flowers from the Pain. As the time or the length of time that the image of the flower is left on the Wikipedia page is now lost. And it's very much unlike the experience of reading a book, which has been left untouched for a number of years, as all physical books, I would say, are kind of products of a specific moment in chronological time. So one way I've tried to reclaim this sense of loss is through the building of this archive. So the idea is that it will act like a time capsule in the future. Ben is a curator, writer, network analyst, technologist, and Luddite. Currently, he's the curator of digital at Serpentine Galleries. He co-runs Limazulu Project Space in London. He participates in the Near Now Fellowship Program and is an active member of the distributed think tank Edge Riders. In the present moment, he lives and worships between the ancient city of Matera, southern Italy, and London. He continues to facilitate the open source development of Unmonastery, a new civically minded social space based on contemporary monastic principles. And on his contribution to the Tabularium archive, and the publication is called AKA Live Journal version 1.0, I just thought, Ben, I'd read out the introduction you sent me, because I thought it was quite reflective of your thoughts on the text at this time. So what he wrote to me was as follows. In 2012, shortly after blowing my life up during the production of an augmented reality game, I moved to Prague for a couple of months to recover. I took with me a stack of books and all of my hard drives. Over the course of my stay, I attempted to make sense of the practice I'd been engaged in since around 2009, a kind of illegible blur, punctuated by artworks, relationships, and personal drama that acted as nodes in a network of a broader network, predicated on traceable network effects. I condensed the contents of my hard drives into a single 200-plus page book, printing just 10 books. They were contained in opaque boxes at the exhibition Net Narrative in London, and each box had a profile photo for the friend or collaborator that they were intended. And you kind of ended your description by saying this was the last artwork I produced in public. And when I was flicking through the book in preparation for the talk, what I was really interested in was in the introduction, you have some kind of rules or caveats about how the book should be read. And also what, you kind of the rules or the boundaries you were setting on the book itself. And so one of them was that distribution was limited to 10 copies, and the digital version will never be put into circulation. So I wanted to, I guess, start off by asking you why limit distribution to such a small amount, and why not make a digital version? Especially, I think in the text you actually say that you plan to revise the book periodically and have multiple versions, but I'm not sure if you've gone down that path.
Yeah, okay. So, limited versions, I guess that... I might have to take my headphones off because I can hear feedback. I guess it's something that I feel quite vulnerable about, because one of the reasons I only produced 10 copies was because I guess it's a kind of honesty about like who the audience for the work actually is. And I think that through the production of work online, like obviously there was a time when I was producing a lot online, but I felt like it was kind of dishonest to kind of pretend that there was this like global audience for an artwork that was predicated on personal relationships and building networks and community. So I wanted to just restrict it to 10 copies, and then I guess in terms of like the sort of investment that people put into work, I really fetishized this idea for a couple of years of like completely destroying like the aura around artwork and like the privileged space of the art object and stuff like that. And then I guess like producing the book was like going back on that and being like, I am actually really invested in like what art means and what it can do. And I thought that perhaps that was more effective if you just produced for a small audience of people who are already engaged and invested in the work that's being produced. So I guess that's why I didn't produce a digital copy. Also because like if you produce a book, it allows you to be much more honest. If there's only 10 of them, so like there's a lot of things, like I guess another example of that would be the book that you have in the archive, the catalogue for Power Production. Like I wrote an essay in that there's no way I would want that published on the internet, because it would be kind of problematic because I say some things and put some things into circulation that I don't want everybody to be aware of.
Just by way of context, I just want to explain to everyone here that the publication that Ben is mentioning, Power Production, it was an exhibition I worked on in Amsterdam, and I invited Ben to write a text for it. And it was very much a kind of a personal approach to an artwork, or your own personal experience, I think, to Ed Borniel's one of his works. Is that right?
Yeah. I think, yeah, maybe to build on that, maybe to say a little bit about how the Carlos Ishikawa exhibition functioned with that artwork. So in like 2010-ish, I have to give like the shorthand explanation. I mean, the book explains like some of it, but I created a company with a friend that was acting as like an anonymous corporation, and we actually made quite a lot of money in the first couple of months, and then it descended into this like fucked up artwork where curated a bunch of exhibitions that kind of collapsed in on themselves, and then liquidated the company. And the like final exhibition of that series of shows was the liquidation of that company, and probably like, I don't know, 20 or 30 people saw it in London, and then the documentation doesn't exist, and like some of the documentation's on that book, but like 2 years later when I produced that book, the guy who I'd started the company with oh shit, I forgot this is being recorded live, so suddenly all of this information, oh, I guess it doesn't matter. So the guy who I'd started that company with also like started a relationship with my girlfriend, which was like part of the reason why the company had to collapse within a series of exhibitions. But what I did when I put that book together is I wanted to demonstrate that like the work that I was producing at that time existed within this kind of network effect, and in order to prove that like network effect could be a performance, I publicly released an email that he sent to me where he was trying to sue me for something that existed within some documentation on some alt tags online. And so what happened at the exhibition is all these people turned up who were like friends with us or were my enemies or whatever, and they went through the boxes and like got the book out and would read it in the gallery during the private view. There was like 5 people sat on the floor reading the book, and then they put it back in the box and then they left. And this caused like an enormous amount of drama within like a particular network of friends. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was kind of about that. And I think that the kind of complexity of that kind of work can't really be achieved through just like posting an image online or anything like that. And I'm kind of interested in that layered effect and the way that the book acts as a provocation to a small group of people, but also this kind of compression format for a kind of history that would probably never be documented.
What do you think now about the fact that it's now part of an archive which is publicly accessible and, you know, is arguably not for that original network that you produced it for?
I guess I was thinking about that when I was watching Lawrence Leck's video. I think the only place that it could exist is an archive, and before I did this, I kind of wanted to be able to read back through the book, but for either somebody's stolen it from my room or I've lost it. I'm not sure what happened to my copy, but I think it makes sense for it to exist within an archive. I think there's probably content in it that is important, because if you look online now, a lot of the works that exist within that book, not just like personal history and stuff, but there's work that I produced with Sarah Hartnett under the heading of Sopping Granite, and it's like there's a total lack of awareness of the existence of that work, and there's so much stuff that's lost from around like 2007 to 2010 that's like referenced there. Like the book itself is even a reference to Chris Secoy's book on Brad Trammell as like a fake person, and it's a direct reference to what he produced for the Just Chillin' exhibition in New York in 2009. So I guess I appreciate the need to like store these things for posterity, in some sense.
Okay, I want to move on to someone in space now. Holly, oh, you're hiding. Do you want to come out so everyone can see you? So Holly is a writer, editor of Crazy in Love magazine, and an artist, and she makes work around digital semiotics, transformations of language and culture, aberration, and fashion. Her writing has been published in Australia and overseas, including in Going Down Swimming, Overland, Signature, Fortnite Poetry Review, Brow, Endlessly Lonely Planet, Polar magazine. Next month she'll be doing a 3-month residency at Arcadia Mixer in London, and her debut novel No Limit is published by Hologram Books this year. And I'm also going to share around the 3 issues of Crazy in Love magazine that we have in the archive as well. So No Limit is Holly's first novella, and it follows a character called Ash, whose connecting flight out of Auckland has been grounded by a volcanic eruption on 21st of December 2012. And I guess there was a scene that I wanted to talk about with you in there, where Ash visits the gallery, named Yes Ultra, and there's an exhibition for Not Dream. I might just read out that little section there to give people a bit of context about what it is. So Ash is handed a room sheet with a quote by an American art critic saying that this show answers the question we've all been asking. Can an artist working in the visual realm break through to the mainstream? With the resounding answer at this point, not necessarily. Then there's descriptions of the works. There's a work by BPPR that's melted pirated DVDs and master cycle moulded into rings that have BPPR etched on them. A work by someone distantly involved with this magazine, something from a local experimental fashion collective called Pauline. A work by Amalia Ullman that is decals affixed to glass panels on a door propped sideways against a wall, including Volcom, Independent, Roxy, DC shoes, and these logos. The woman symbol and some stars, a crescent moon, and the zodiac symbol for Capricorn. A piece by Clara Chon that is a round deerskin fur bag studded with rivets forming a sad face next to a quote from Blair Waldorf that says, "Fashion is the most powerful art there is. It's movement, design, and architecture all in one. It shows the world who we are and who we'd like to be." And I thought it was interesting that in the acknowledgement section of the book, you actually name some of the artists and thank them for their works for your exhibition. I'm just wondering sort of how that process was going to actually work.
I was interested in presenting a fictional exhibition of real works by real artists. And I was kind of imagining what an exhibition that was exploring that kind of theme, like who would be in it. Because the book set in December 2012. I sort of was looking back at that era and thinking about who was being selected for a book and so exploring kind of like online art stuff. And then I just spoke to the artists that I was interested in showing in the gallery in the book. And with each artist workshop, what work they would have or did produce in that era that they would like to go in the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so PVPR gave me a list of possible works that they would have produced in that era, and Amalia gave me a few links to like the works that she was making in that period and asked me to select those.
And why present this kind of fictional exhibition in the book? How does it how does it relate to the rest of the book?
It's just a thing that happened in a book that is kind of within the realm of my reality. Like, I go to galleries all the time. So it makes sense that would be reflected in the book that I write. I don't think that doesn't seem very eloquent.
No, that's a perfectly good reason. I was just curious.
And yeah, I guess I'm interested in like art writing that it's not like secondary to the artwork. It's sort of just like writes what it's being or like does something that is kind of not subjugated.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So with the kind of the fictional, non-fictional exhibition, how does the artist feel about their work almost retaining some kind of immortality in some way that was very differently from these
Everyone seems just pretty like interested for their work to be particular going in that context. Yeah, I didn't I only kind of got positive feedback
descriptions as well. Is that from you, or did you workshop with them and write their work?
They gave me either ideas or images, and then from that I wrote what it would look like. Yeah.
So I might move on to just introducing Karen Ann. So together with Andy Simeonato, Karen Ann Donaki has contributed quite a few publications to the archive, so I'm just going to start sending them around now. So Karen Ann Donaki and Andy Simeonato are artist scholars in photography, design and art publishing. From 1993 to 2010, they were based in Milan, Italy, where alongside their studio practice, they founded and curated the experimental art periodical This Is a Magazine in 2002, and later the imprint Atomic Activity books in 2008, from which a number of monographic artist books and compendia of internet art have been published. So Karen Ann's artistic activity overlaps fields as diverse as photography, video, performance, algorithmic and internet art. She has also she's exhibited in solo and group exhibitions in Argentina, Australia, Denmark, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, and the USA. And currently, Karen Ann lectures on the contemporary image at Curtin University in Perth, where she is a PhD by research candidate under an Australian Postgraduate Award and Curtin Research Scholarship. And her PhD research explores the selfie and the network self-portrait. So Karen, and I kind of wanted to start with discussing who I think I am.
Yep.
Which is the 5th compendium of This Is a Magazine. And the reason I wanted to mention this publication first, is because it's presently the earliest work in the archive.
Right.
And just by way of background for everyone here, it's described as containing over 200 pages of new works, almost all of which have been cut, sliced, diced, scored, folded, and generally messed with before being stitch bound into a hardcover with a giant laminated DIY paper sculpture as a dust jacket. It's a book which explores the fine print in the contracts of identity. The reader is invited to complete Who I Think I Am with over 100 stickers, a How to Artist Live survey card, fold and read chapters, and a bag of previously removed compendia parts. And what I found quite interesting on the This Is a Magazine website is you actually refer to it as being an internet-specific publication. So I was just hoping you can expand on that, given that, you know, we're holding.
Oh, you dropped out right at the end there. Okay. Yeah, This Is a Magazine started as an online publication. So we were back in 2002, and that's when, you know, you just had Flash as a platform. It was Flash 3, so it was really fun. Things didn't really work very well, and we just made a simple flip book. At the time, it was one of the first. Obviously, everyone scrambles to say they're the first, but it's been attributed to our publication and to Tiger magazine in Japan at the same time, but we were unaware of that. So we, simple flip book, you flip right and left, and the notion was to try and bring artists who are working in and around the internet to take them away from the kind of profile that they were having in the magazines and in books of at the time. I'm sure everyone else can testify to the fact that at the time you would get like the browser window reproduced in a book with a little bar at the top, and then you'd have like a photograph of the artist at the side, and then you'd have a text description of who made the artwork. And it just seemed unfair because obviously all other media were getting full page, you know, full bleed in general magazines, so illustration and whatnot, so photography and all the rest of it. So we thought that obviously the work that was being produced by the artists we were working with deserved similar treatment. It's not automatic, obviously, bringing internet art then to print, but what we started playing with was reinterpretation of the artworks deliberately for print. So the idea that we were somehow co-authoring with the artists. Next question.
Hold on, I'll put this on. So the other publication of yours I wanted to mention is one of the atomic activity ones. It's called Blue Cloud Live Transmission. Does anyone have that? I can hold it up. Yeah, sure. So basically, this is a publication by Dirk Paismans, who is one half of the artistic collective Jody. And essentially, this publication consists of a collection of screen images from a live broadcast which took place on the 26th of May 1991 from Blue Cloud BBS to a local television in the Netherlands. And a BBS, which stands for Bulletin Board System, is a computer system running software that allows users to connect and log into the system using a terminal program. So once logged in, a user can perform functions such as uploading or downloading software and data, reading news and bulletins, and exchanging messages with other users. Set against a background of swirling blue clouds, the cryptic language seems impenetrable. And I thought it was, you know, I'm sure you'd agree that this is almost like an alternative version of the internet, which anticipates.
Oh, it's a proto-internet. It's a proto-internet. I mean, obviously, it's BBS, which means the internet system was still part of it, but it definitely preceded the internet by quite a bit, yeah.
This is actually where I wanted to bring in Shay, because I understand, Shay, in Berlin last weekend at the Composing Rooms, you actually held the book launch of Blue Cloud.
Shay, you're muted, I think.
Hey.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hi. I might just
yeah.
you before if you want to share how the event went. So Shay's a curator and a gallerist. In London, she established the Composing Rooms in 2010, and she co-founded Barron Magazine in 2011, where she's also the art editor. In 2012, she curated the year-long project, The Green Room, which presented John Rathman, Matthew Johnstone, Raphael Rosendahl, Darth King, Anna de Vries, Kate Sessiu, Artie Vierkant, and Petra Portrait in her first UK solo exhibitions. In 2014, she opened a showroom in Berlin, an unconventional space for exhibiting art and housing ephemeral art projects. So, yeah, Shay, did you want to share with us how the event went on Saturday and who you had there?
Yeah, so hi everyone. It was great to have that little intro from Karen, thank you, because actually there was a question at the end by Constant Dollar, like how do you connect the internet to publications, and why do you, what's the point kind of thing in printing something that's already existing like on the network.
Oh, I wish I had been there to answer.
Yeah, I'd like tweeted him the Wikipedia link of This Is a Magazine afterwards. I tried to explain, but it was kind of like short. On the panel, I had Derek Parsmans, Joan, the other partner from Jody, was also in the audience. She was sick, so she couldn't join us on the panel. And then Karen Archie, Renee Carmichael, and Nico Princeton. And then I had like kind of my wingman, Sakrowski, who's actually curating the next Transmediale. And he's super wise, like he's been around from the 90s net art scene. And it was really great to have him there, even though I had to like coax him on stage. And Nico and Renee are also practicing artists using the internet, and Renee also does publishing, so there was kind of this connection. I mean, for me, publishing and the internet are like the same thing. Like, I think that now we have the internet. I mean,
publish means finding a public, so yes, you're absolutely right.
And I think that still, when you talk about public or audience, you sometimes, you know, making a book creates a new audience for something that exists online, or vice versa. And I don't. It's like is there a hierarchy? You can't really say. I think they're just different mediums, and you can be experimental. And yeah, I don't know. Is that answering the question? Kind of thing.
Thanks. And I'm just going to pass around the green room booklet now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Did you want to explain a bit about that publication and the role it served at the composing rooms? Oh, sorry, at the green room exhibition.
Well, it's kind of oh, maybe you mute your thing because I'm getting feedback.
Sorry.
The green room is like kind of a pseudonym of the composing rooms, and it confused like everyone a million times, and like still get credited as the green room, not the composing rooms. But I guess the composing rooms idealized itself as having like multiple rooms. So now in Berlin I have the showroom, and like I'm launching the online room, which is room.thecomposingrooms.com, and maybe I want to be confusing, I don't know. But the green room was actually kind of stolen off this community arts centre in East London, and it was a green room. So a green room is actually used as like backstage for performance preparation, or like theatre kind of lines reading, this kind of stuff. And so I just used the name that the building was already calling the room, and it was, yeah, so I got funding from the Arts Council, and I was in this community building essentially already, so it was very much about, I knew that I had to be accessible and public and open, and so the Green Room publication was a way to, yeah, communicate with the people who might otherwise not know or have an access point to these artists. And I did get a very wide audience, so it kind of functioned, because it was distributed mainly from the entranceway of the building, which has like I think 20-something thousand of foot traffic a year, so it was quite a busy space. Yeah.
Thank you. And on that note, I wanted to introduce Amy Clark from London. Amy is an artist, curator, and founder of Banner Repeater, which is a reading room with a public archive of artist publishing and a project space which opens up as an experimental space for others. Banner Repeater is situated on a working train station platform at Hackney Down Station in London. So ideas of publishing, distribution, and dissemination, how performance of language increasingly impacts on daily life, were shared in Amy's practice as an artist and curator, and also informed the working remit of Banner Repeater. She's recently exhibited, curated, presented works at David Roberts Arts Foundation, the Camden Arts Centre, and had a solo exhibition in Tokyo. And she continues to commission new artists, writers works through the Banner Repeater platform and several publishing imprints, which include Banner Repeater paperbacks, Banner Repeater publishing, and the Unpublished series. She teaches across the UK with a focus on publishing, distribution, and dissemination in post-digital art production. So what I'm going to be handing around now is some of the issues from the Unpublished series. Amy, did you want to expand on that particular series and why you've created them? And I thought it'd be interesting to actually introduce you sort of beside Shay, because of the nature of the pamphlet and the mass exposure of the pamphlet as well. Your mic is on mute still.
Is it on now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Well, I'll start with Banner Repeater because it's easier, I guess, to then sort of work into Unpublished. Banner Repeater was started in 2009 with the deliberate sort of idea of placing an archive of artist publishing in a very public space, or a very public access space, with a high incidental footfall. There's about 4,000 people a day who pass through. Obviously, they don't all stop, but there is a good footfall into the space. And it was an idea about putting some material which was quite difficult to find and often sort of kept in an archive at the back of an institution or in a cupboard at the Tate, and actually put it on view so that people could literally just stumble into it, which they often do. And out of that we have a sort of various different publishing sort of imprints, and these often get distributed from the library trolley, which is outside on the platform, and we open at 8 AM in the morning until 11, 6 days a week. Over the weekends we open normal gallery hours, but there's a real emphasis on distributing artist material at that time in the morning, and basically the platform is packed full of people commuting who are setting off into the city, and they pick up the material and then they sort of put it down on a train seat, put it down on a bus seat, somebody else picks it up, and so on. So it's our own distribution network, and it kind of works nicely with the idea of the train network, and how that was an early form of, sorry, an early network of distribution, but in a very material sense. And then you sort of kind of, that actually is quite a good way to then introduce Unpublish, which is deliberately printed on paper. And it, I'll just show you, there we go. It comes out of a conversation between Hans-Ulrich Obrist and Julian Assange when they were talking about this idea of how easy it is to redact material online, and you know, often not in our favour in terms of the public. And the idea of printing on paper meant that there was potentially a much longer shelf life and a better distribution of that material, that also had a material quality to it that was handleable, was people could put it into their pockets and so on. And the more recent paperback, which we did with Erica Scorti, also follows in that vein, with the idea of being able to take this material away. And interestingly, paperbacks actually came from obviously printing press kind of developments during industrialisation, but one of the first reasons for it becoming a paperback and not a hardback was that it could be distributed via the rail networks, via what was then a ubiquitous sort of newsagents and booksellers of W.H. Smith's. But Unpublished was a sort of focused on Chelsea Manning, then Bradley Manning, his conversations with various people like Zach Anteluke and Adrian Lamo, that with his leaking this material to WikiLeaks, which he felt was extremely important, and we know this story quite well, but there was a serious investment in what he felt was a terrible wrongdoing, and it was fascinating that he, unfortunately, also his personal communications in the lead up to his arrest, as a result of this situation, also became public. So you found yourself being able to read these intimate moments between him and the person he was communicating with, leading up to his arrest, and they were just extraordinary. They were really amazingly written. And there was this strange sort of collapsing of sort of fiction into reality with the use of his language, because a lot of it was very sort of sci-fi kind of. It was extraordinarily rich in terms of how he was describing things, and he even referred to various different sort of science fiction kind of creature, characters, and almost in terms of what a thriller might be like, how it might be written. So it really appealed to me, and the story really caught me. So I basically appropriated it and re-edited it into 3 different chapters, one of which is his conversation with Zach Anteluke, one of which is his conversation with Adrian Lamo, and then a fictional version of him talking to Julian Assange and Slavoj Žižek from his cell once he'd been incarcerated, and really sort of basically sort of I remember there was a Democracy Now! sort of talk between Zizek and Assange, and I found it painful to watch, in that Manning at this point was sort of incarcerated and was kind of if anybody was going to be a hero, he was the real hero of the piece. And there were these two sort of, I don't know, sort of celebrity kind of speakers, sort of, I don't know, gooning it really. It was some extraordinary thing. So anyway, the third chapter is he writes to them both, sort of parodying the same kind of language that he was using, and they basically developed into a series. I sort of realised it had legs basically, and there's been various other people who've been invited to contribute to it. Nina Power did this one, which was a pamphlet about a book about a blog, which was talking about her experience of being asked by Zero Books to write an One-Dimensional Woman, which was a lot of material taken from her blog Infinite Thought. And I happened to hear her speaking about the experience of writing and how this changed from this very fluid and contributed to blogging activity, and how then this sort of final print and how she felt about it and how difficult it was to have this sort of single item out into the world. And then since then there's been another one, Revolutionising Desire, a reclamation of representation for its effective potential by Arcadia Missa, who were in residence at Banner Repeater for a period in 2013. And we published this first as a sort of almost an introduction, a sort of working text, and then they invited people during their residency to come and contribute to another rewriting or rethinking through the text, and produced a final text at the end of that. Actually, it's not so much a final text, it's still in progress, I should imagine. And then since then there's been, we've worked with Maria Laura Gadini from Orbits.com, who invited Tara Kelton and Prayas Abhinav to do 2 more and publish. I mean, all of them share a kind of interest in what it is to write and how that mediation sort of gives a sense of a subject in sort of development, you know, an evolutionary sort of how that's evolving and how that changes given each different mediation, and many mediations, of course, and they're all printed on paper. They're all printed in a fairly large run of about 1,000, and they're free. And we put them out on the library trolley in the morning, 8 AM, and people pick them up and take them away with them. And it's just an extraordinary sort of, we're just very fortunate to be in a situation which means that this network is available to us. But it was kind of appropriate to where we were to act in this way. There's I should say as well, there's also the Project Space has a running programme of various different exhibitions, either by commission works or group exhibitions, but they all kind of have this drive behind them to do with publishing and distribution and hence dissemination, and how that sort of changes over time and through history. With the most recent one, as I've mentioned, Erica Scorti's The Outage, which is a ghost-written memoir based on her data footprints that she had analysed by various different professionals. Really fantastic. You should get one now. There's, I guess, maybe to end.
There is one in the archives at the back if someone wants to grab it.